Victor, I am fired up.
Are you? Why, Ed?
Why? We got a great broadcast. We got great numbers to share, and we got a monster leaderboard. We're going to get to that in a minute.
Okay.
I mean, just think about it. So Cuban sandwich or sponge cake. As you know, it's national. As you would assume, it's National Cuban Sandwich
Yeah, that's
Day,
always on my mind.
It's National Sponge Cake Day. So I picked Cuban.
Most
with no pickles. How we doing here?
A lot of Cuban all day. Maximilian Masters. What a name. Maximilian Masters.
Stormy asked me, she said, what's sponge cake? She said, is that angel food cake? And quite frankly, I don't really know what sponge cake
I don't
is.
I don't know what it is. Let me see. Steve is Cuban. Miguel Diaz says, good morning. Adam Humphrey is a curmudgeon. He says neither. Apparently, he just hates life at this point.
Adam.
Let me see. Like I said, Brandon Blankenship.
I
like saying that name, man. That's just like a cool name to say.
Who else you see out there?
Drake Plett.
That's new. I see
And
Mike Mandry. We might hear about him later too.
Neri Roca. I don't know why the word Neri Roca reminds me of some type of 1980s music video. I don't know why.
You think so?
Yeah, Neri Roca.
I
It's
don't
like there's like this 80s song by Neri Roca. I don't know. It just sounds right, man.
That doesn't make any sense.
I see Michael Sardinsky. Michael Sardinsky reminds me
of
my physics teacher with that white mustache of his. All right, Victor, here's the line right here.
I forgot you're an engineer. I'm going to say you took physics. I never took physics.
What do you mean you never took
You're
physics?
an engineer. Yeah.
Took physics. Had to take physics. There's our girl Dawn Marie. Love it.
Amen.
TT's in the house. That's Tim Tarantello.
Travis
Craig
Kemper.
Pearson. Pay attention, Craig Pearson.
Who's not
That's
paying
right.
attention?
This way.
Derek Kennedy. Derek, I was looking at old video of you. I might even share that one day again.
Everybody. Who else is out there? Got Jim. I don't know who ROL iPad is. You guys need to really change that.
Yeah, put your name on those iPads.
I don't know who it is.
We're getting better at that.
Yeah, we'll get better eventually.
Who else? I see Gerald Jones looking sharp.
Miguel Diaz hanging out.
There's Rick Landy. He landed a big deal.
John
this
Wilk
month.
looks like he's bored with his little headset in there going, let me adjust my glasses because life is good right now.
There's Dave Henry leading the pack for the National Account Sellers in the President's Club standings.
By the way, Gerald Jones looks really irritated for some reason. He's doing this with his red shirt.
I don't see as good as you do.
What the hell? I got to be on this damn podcast. Why do I got this and I got things to do right now?
Michael
See,
Smith.
he knows I'm right. He knows I'm right. Derek Kennedy, what's happening with your bald-headed self? Love it, man.
San Diego in the house together as a group. I love when they do that. Thank you for doing that.
You like the groups. You like the groups.
Seeing these in your groups. Absolutely.
By the way, Samantha Vernon is going full behind the wheel. Look at that. Look at that.
What?
She's got the camera all the way behind her steering wheel. That's how you do behind the wheel authentically. Way to go.
There you
Roy
go.
Gonzalez, I see you with the fake cityscape in the background.
All right, that's enough of that. What have you been doing?
I've had in-laws in-house. I've had nephews and nieces, and I'm dying for them to all go home.
I was going to ask, how's that going?
Go home. Go home.
You had it?
By the way, is it
Atlanta? When are you leaving?
me? Or like when family comes over, what's that? It should be like the fish rule.
Tell me about the fish rule.
The fish rule is like fish. You catch fish, and if you just keep it there, after 2 or 3 days, it starts.
It got to go?
It's got to go. Is it me? Is it just me? But it's like 2 or 3 days should be the limit. I think 3 days should be the maximum.
I would agree. By
the way, I would love to hear your opinion. How long should your family stay in your house? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
The only caveat I have on that is all my kids can go home. If they leave them 4 girls, they can leave them 4 granddaughters
I'll take the granddaughter.
as long as they want.
That's right. Granddaughter.
We'll keep them
We'll
forever.
call that the granddaughter exception.
Send the parents home.
What have you been up to?
So I've had a really cool last couple of weeks, right? Okay. So last week, I spent a whole lot of time in Gulfport, Mississippi, with all the region sales managers in the South Central Division. Had a great event down there in Gulfport, Mississippi, and got to mix and mingle with them and talk sales, and that's always fun for me. That was a blast, and just talking through strategies and what we could do better, and really focused on trying to fix turnover a little bit, primarily on the residential side. So that was a great week, right? Even though it was hot as Hades down there, it was like 100 degrees, Victor. It's a little cooler here in Atlanta now, it's starting to be. And
I start sweating when I just hear Mississippi.
Yeah,
in Louisiana.
It was beautiful. We were in not Gulf. We were in Biloxi, on the water.
Biloxi, Mississippi.
It was nice, but I think I spent about 3 minutes outside.
Yeah,
and that was walking to the restaurant that we went to.
Yeah, Mississippi and Louisiana just makes me feel all just hot.
Like wet and sticky, right?
Yeah, they're going to yell at us for saying that.
But this week, I had something really cool happen. I had the opportunity to go up to Columbus, Ohio, and I think that some of the folks have been part of these road shows. So Jerry Galoff, our CEO, is going out with Ken Kraus, our CFO, and Pat Chernowski, our division president, or Orkin president,
right.
And they're traveling through, meeting with branch managers and region managers and region staffs and kind of sharing the vision, the 2027 vision that they have. And up in Columbus, we had 3 different regions involved. They brought in the Indiana Rescom region, they brought in the Ohio Rescom region, and the Midwest East commercial region. So they all came in and they got to hear from Jerry, and they got to hear from Pat, and they got to hear from Ken. Jerry's message, I think it's starting to filter its way through the company, is this 2027 goal, right? So for the first time in my 40 years of being here, we have, I think, what you call like a quantifiable, target, right? Jerry has got this goal of being a $5 billion company by the end of 2027. So it's the first time that I've ever seen that from us as a company. I've been around, we want to be the best service provider in the country, the best service, best service company in the world. That was kind of the goal at one time. But this says we want to get to 5 billion. And it's really cool, the messaging that he brings to that and how we're going to support that and how we're going to grow that. And the amazing thing is, if we're going to do that, we're going to add 500 leadership positions.
Wow, that's a big
500
number.
leadership positions.
That's huge.
We'll have to grow another division.
Okay.
We'll have to grow 7 more regions, and we'll have to grow 70 to 80 branches. So you think about that growth over the next 2.5, 3 years, it's going to be so exciting. And the way that they do the math, and they kind of use the trajectory we're on right now with our
Right.
growth. I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, like, when you think 5 billion,
Right.
it's like, oh, we'll never get there. But when you lay out the math and what we've been doing,
Right.
we don't have to do anything extraordinary. We
Right.
just need to keep doing what we're doing and keep growing the way, and we're going to get there.
Yeah.
And the other piece was, and I love Ken Kraus too, our CFO. I think there've been 3 maybe 4 since I've been here. The way that he breaks down our stock price. One of the questions that I get all the time is, when is the stock going to split? And that typically comes from folks that have been around for a little bit, right? Typically if our stock got to $35, $40, we were splitting it. Well, the way Ken explained it, we're not going to split it. We are now part of the S&P 500. So, we're big players, we've made that goal a couple of years ago. And the average price for S&P stock is almost $200. So Ken said, there's no reason to split our stock. And the analogy he used is, he said, just think of our stock price as a pizza, right? And all you would do is you would cut that 16-inch pizza into either 6, 8, or 12 slices. And he said, it doesn't matter. It's still that same 16-inch. So he said, there's no real value, because we used to think that if that stock price got above 40, that it would kind of steer some buyers away.
Right.
But that was at a point in time where we didn't sell. We didn't sell fractional shares.
Right, right.
You can now buy through payroll deduction. You can buy fractional shares of Rollins now, which we were never able to do.
Right.
So he said, we're not going to mess with the stock price. We're just not going to mess with it.
That makes sense. I mean, if you think about it, like $50, let's just say that,
That's
let's
where
say,
that's where we're at today, by the way.
yeah. So let's say 20 years ago, it would have seemed like, oh man, that's too big. Maybe we need to split that thing. But a $50 share today, it's not,
No.
100, 200, you'd be like, okay, that's a share.
Yeah.
So yeah,
No,
I like his thinking.
It's super cool. And when they do the math, again, the math convinces me that this is all doable.
Right.
And Ken did the math on that. If we get to that 5 billion with that kind of growth, that we're already kind of
What's the current revenue?
about 3 billion.
3 billion, okay.
3 billion.
Right.
When we get there in the next couple 3 years,
Right.
that stock price, he did the math on it, and he lays it out that
Right.
if we get to that, our stock will be at $75.
Okay.
And you think about that, $75 growth on 50 that we're at today, a little bit over 50, I think, today.
Should we say that we're not investment consultants
yeah.
and blah, 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 blah,
Caveat.
blah.
We're not those kind of folks.
We just like.
But yeah, I mean,
nah.
just a great experience, and hopefully they're going to continue to make the rounds. They do one every quarter.
Yeah.
And they got a calendar. I don't know where they're going next, but there's been a bunch already, and it's the first one I had a chance to participate in. And I just love them driving the message from the top
Yeah.
to the field.
I like the tangible numbers, like 500 new leadership positions. How many branches?
70 to 80.
70 to 80 branches. That's like a
Leadership
target.
positions.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest fear that they have.
Yeah.
Is we've got to develop that talent to be able to deliver
Yeah.
those positions.
Especially from inside,
Yeah,
I would think.
in
Not so
term-
much coming in from the
hopefully,
outside. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Got
So I
it.
think that's cool. The other thing that's going to happen, you're going to see it soon, because Ken did this presentation on how you come up with stock price and how you calculate stock price. It was so good that there were a couple of folks in the room that said, "Man, we got to get that on tape for everybody." So
You got to get it on what?
not
on
on
tape.
on video. Okay, sorry, Victor.
1970s,
We're going to get it on a
80s.
Betamax
Yeah.
tape.
Yeah.
And we're going to ship it out to every
On the
branch
VHS,
and
yeah.
overnight it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but we're going to get that and share that with you.
Yeah.
Ken's just really super smooth at doing that.
Can I look at it? Can I see it? Am I
Absolutely.
allowed to? Okay,
Absolutely.
Let's go.
So much.
Yeah.
We'll get you buying
Okay.
some more stock too.
Yeah, cool.
What else is going on?
That's about it. Busy week. I know we got a nice list coming up here.
Yeah, and let's just jump into some of the numbers, and then we'll get into our content. So just I mean, super excited. We had a phenomenal August in commercial sales, and I'll just share a couple numbers with you. You know, for example, our local commercial sales in August were 21% over what we did last year.
Yeah, wow.
21% increase. I mean, just crazy. We're shooting for double digits all the time, but when you can get it to with a 2 in front of that instead of a 1,
that's nice.
Man, that's a home run. Team sales, national account team sales, 52% better than last year.
Just crazy. No, that's crazy.
Total
Who
sales.
are these commercial people?
It's
Who are these
people.
animals?
It's these people right here. You roll it all up for the month of August, 22% year-over-year increase. And I keep wanting to remind everybody, since COVID left us, well, I guess it's around, but since the real scare in COVID, we have done double-digit increases in commercial for the last 4 or 5 years. And so we're not building on numbers that were crappy. Sometimes you can get these nice increases, and you're just coming up against a bad year last year. Not the case commercially.
I think what makes these numbers really from an outside looking in special is I see what other companies are doing, or I should say not doing.
Yeah.
For you guys to be posting these numbers, it's incredible, especially given these economic conditions that we have today.
Absolutely.
These are amazing numbers.
I mean, we've always been somewhat recession resilient, and Ken talks about that in his talks to everybody, so that's super cool.
Yeah.
But when you roll it all up together, year-to-date numbers, I'll do the same thing.
Yep.
Local commercial sales year-to-date are up 14% year-over-year. Kind of the beat goes on, right? Team sales are up 30%. That's where the national account folks work with the field folks. The account managers are up 30%, and total sales are up 18% commercially year-over-year. Again, just spectacular numbers, And the good news, the better news, is it all convert into profit. At the end of the day, you want to drive that stock price. You want to drive the bottom line, and that's what y'all did. We had a monster profit month in August. We're on profit plan year to date, and we're already, I looked at some of the mid-month projections already for August, and we're on track to lay another big bomb in profit in there.
Love
just outstanding. In addition, Victor, to all those company-wide numbers, we set a record.
Another one.
Wait,
after a while, I'm going to just start to yawn. Every month, I always have a new record. Yeah, sure.
So here's the cool thing. So we have that goal of $75K paid on.
Yep.
So if you get paid on $75,000, we recognize you, we give you a $100 gift card, and yada, 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 right? So it's all good that way. First time ever, Victor, 32 of our account managers crossed that paid on $75,000 video.
Hot dang.
Video? 75? You got me stuck on video. $75,000 threshold. So we should, Stormy, cut to the video.
There you go. Here we go.
So Victor.
Yes.
Before we get into talking about the people, how about the video that Ben put together? Tying it into the president's
Way to go, Ben. Nice video. Nice video. Finally, a good video.
Oh, you're gonna get in trouble.
I always get in trouble. Let me see. We got some cool notes in here. Fidel Rodriguez says, "Omar, congrats, sir." There was some names here I didn't recognize. Avery Brewer says, "The Pelican." What is that?
That's Lyle Scott.
Is that Lyle Scott?
That's his nickname. He's about 7 feet tall.
Oh wow, the Pelican. Who's Go Mandry?
He's new.
Is he?
He's one of the new guys. He's on the broadcast.
By the way, can I say it like this? My girl.
She's your girl now.
Now she's my girl. Deborah Paccioni, a.k.a. The Patch.
The Patch. We're going to
number one. The Patch is number one.
Back to back, by the way.
She's killing it, man. She's killing it. I love it.
377,000 paid on. Victor, I don't care how you cut that math.
Yeah,
That's 60 grand in commissions.
the Patch.
in
We're
1
friends
month.
now. The Patch and I are friends. So yeah,
She
that's
needs to
nice.
throw a little money our way.
Yeah, yeah.
That's back to back for her. So if you put that onto the other, she got paid on like almost 700,000 in the last 2 months.
That's nice. Jose of the Rose, De La Rosa.
How about that?
Way to go. Yep.
My favorite city in the whole planet, other than Youngstown, is Key West, Florida. So maybe Jose can invite us down and maybe buy
Have
us
some
some
coffee
drinks.
with them or
Yeah,
something.
Not coffee, Victor.
Well, I
drinks.
was
You're
gonna
going
say,
to Key West.
I'm trying to keep it G here. Guillermo Dolente's on there again.
Always
He's
on
doing
there.
well. Jason Civittoni. You know, Jason Fell and Jordan Bosmany, I don't know what's going on with those two.
Will
but
you stop?
They need to up their game because they're like number what, 8, 9, 10?
They're still-
I don't know. They're so far down there I can barely see
They're
them.
still 1-2 year to date. The GOAT, Chris Pierce, always there, 154. I looked at his numbers for this month already.
Yep.
Chris Pierce is already over 300,000 paid on for August.
I want to know, Wiz, you see the screen right there?
Who?
Where is Gerald Jones at with his red shirt? Gerald.
I don't know.
Gerald Jones. I'm picking on you on this broadcast.
stop.
Where you at, man? Where you at, Gerald Jones?
All right, stop,
Come on,
Victor.
man.
So we had 11 over 100,000.
Nice.
We had 2 over 200, and we had Deb almost knocking down
Got
400,000.
Jerry White.
Just crazy.
Venkat's on there also.
Venkat, that's 3 months in a row for him.
Kimberly Thompson out of Washington, D.C.
She's out.
And they say nothing good comes out of D.C.
That's good politically.
That was a good.
We're not going there.
That was
We're
a
not
good
going
segue.
there.
That was a good
Too
segue.
much stuff
Gotta
going
give
on
me-
right now.
give me points
stay,
on that.
stay focused.
All right, man.
Stay
All right.
focused. Our West Coast here.
Yeah, yeah.
We got a lot of West Coasters on here. You got
Yep.
Jesse. You got Brian. I mean, just down the list. Just
Yep.
clicking it. Albert.
Good
Lee
numbers.
Slater there in West LA. Just super cool.
Yep.
My man Brian Clark. This is a good thing, right? So in addition to doing all the stuff I did this week,
Yeah.
visiting with the leadership class and doing that, I went golfing. I golf like 3 times a year. I went golfing.
Wait. Just
times.
3 times a year.
Yeah, I'm a horrible golfer.
Nobody there believes you.
No, it's a
Nobody
fact.
on that screen
if
believes
they ever
you.
saw me swing, they would know that. But I had the pleasure. Brian Clark is one of our. He's a chairman's President's Club guy all the time. Up there from Youngstown. So we were up there with a couple of his customers. They had this big event, so we did some sponsorship. So I was reassured that my man Brian, the guy that I had some influence on hiring, 20, 25, 26 years ago, is working really hard because he's a really crappy golfer.
Okay.
He's as bad as I am. So, and every time I see there's only a couple Orkin folks I know that can really golf well.
Yeah.
And those are kind of the Worth brothers and residential. But
Gotcha.
but I love it when Orkin folks are bad golfers because that means they're not spending too much time on
So there's
the
like
golf
an
course.
inverse proportional
100%,
relationship. Okay.
100%.
If you're bad at golf, your numbers are good. If you're good at golf, your numbers are bad.
I don't know if anybody ever did the math on that, but I certainly believe it. So,
see
no,
that.
what else you see?
Michael Edwards just says, Pack representing. Great job, Mandry, and all those from the Pack.
Absolutely.
The Pack is back.
Outstanding.
Michael Edwards, congrats to all the sales superstars.
Yeah, again, the same story,
Yeah.
like Key West to Boston,
Yeah.
LA to DC, Syracuse to Dallas.
Good spread.
Just
Good spread.
everywhere,
Yeah.
everywhere. No, outstanding.
Yep.
So let's get into some content.
do it.
And I was intrigued by a post that you put up. Everybody knows I'm kind of that junkie that I don't watch TV. I just consume content all the time. But you put a podcast up a couple days ago. So if you've not signed up for Victor's, YouTube channel and all those kind of things, and not getting that, they come automatically if you signed up, if you subscribe and you sign up for notifications. So this thing comes through, and it's a book that I read 7, 8 years ago and really loved and kind of questioned at first. And I loved how you teed the podcast up. But the book is quite simply the perfect close. So any salesperson worth the salt says, is there really a perfect close? But you broke down Muir's book in a way that I thought was important that we share with these folks. So talk about what you shared in the podcast. We'll share that podcast out when I share this video when we publish it. But talk a little bit about how you broke that down and how simple I think it is.
Yeah. So James Muir wrote a book, several years ago called The Perfect Close. A pompous title, if you ask me, I said to myself. So I said, but I'll read the book. Why not? He's a good friend. Let me read his book. And it is a fantastic book. By the way, there's an audio book available. I think Ed said he listened to that. So it's called The Perfect Close. And so besides the fact, I'm going to tell you what The Perfect Close is, but there's a lot of content in there. One of the things I like about James's work, he's also has a new book out. He collects a lot of the good research data and puts it in the book, and so you'll find that in the book, The Perfect Close. And The Perfect Close has its 2 steps. And the reason I reviewed it in my podcast, by the way, look up Sales Influence Podcast. And this is like a 9-minute podcast. And what I did is I went back and looked at the book because I had my own little twist on it. So The Perfect Close goes something like this. When you're done with your presentation and you're asking for the order or the next step, your statement should be, does it make sense to fill in the blank? turn it over to you on that one.
Yeah, and what's so intriguing? It seems so simple, right? And it's such you're almost looking for commitment,
Right.
Without you're not ABC closing, like
So fill in the blank so people know what we're talking. I say, does it make sense to, for example,
schedule a next appointment. Schedule your inspection. When we think about these folks, residentially sometimes we get one call closes, right? You go out there, they got termites flying, they got something going on. It can often be a one call close. Most of the time with the work that these folks do, they're working their tail off to get an appointment.
Right.
So you may even use this
Right.
while you're phone blasting and you're doing all that stuff, or even when you're face to face to use the same strategy
Right.
to do that. So it's all encompassing, but at the same time, I think oftentimes we're not necessarily every time asking for the business,
Right.
but we're asking for the next appointment.
Correct.
And I think it's so important to leave every appointment or every conversation that you're with a bona fide, calendared
Right.
next step.
Right.
Like, what are we doing? So many times we get into this situation to where we don't. I talk to salespeople. What's going on? What's the next step? And they don't know. They don't know.
know.
Well, I'm waiting for them to call me back. They're going to call me back. They're going to do this.
well, you have a data point on this. What's the data point?
The data point's pretty crazy, right?
Yeah, it is crazy.
So I even wrote it down. 76% of the folks in sales leave conversation with no scheduled call to action.
76%. That's
Yeah.
a big number.
And
Three out of
when
four
I looked
people.
at it, when I looked at it, I said, "That's a bunch of baloney." But then when I started tracking it back in my mind, how many appointments have you been on in the last month that you don't have a scheduled next step?
Right.
Like when to contact them. You
Right.
know when to follow back up. You know when you're doing the inspection. You know when you're going to deliver the proposal. So talk a little bit about more.
I want to ask you the question, if you allow me. Like, why do you think, Ed, people, 3 out of 4 people don't ask for the next step? In other words, doesn't make sense to, get the contract going. Why do you think they don't ask?
I don't. I've got my own opinion on it, which I think might be rather simple. I think sometimes we're fearful of them not wanting to do the next step, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, maybe they don't want to do the next step, so I'll wait for them to call me. I'm going to give them control, and I think that's a mistake because the next step in the in the
process,
the 4-word close.
5 word. So does it make sense to, or does it make sense to fill in the blank? So does it make sense to, right? And if the person says yes, perfect, you move forward.
Keep going.
If they say no, you say, what do you suggest the next step should be? And that's where you kind of hand over control, but yet you still maintain control, if that makes any sense.
I think that's one of the biggest key takeaways I've had from it is you give over control to gain more control.
Because now they have to explain or at least tell you what the next step should be. And again, whatever they say, that's their commitment. And that's what I loved about his approach. And so when I looked at tweaking this, my opening was, doesn't make sense to. That's theirs, right? I wanted to tweak it to, I want to recommend something. The next step should be, instead of does that make sense to fill in the blank, the next step should be to get the contract rolling. I said, would you agree? That's a little more assertive.
100%.
And I based, by the way, and again, everybody's going to come up with their own response. That's the one I feel comfortable with. I'll always say, do you agree? So again, the next step would be fill in the blank, do you agree?
Yeah.
And the reason I use that, Ed, we talked about this, is that when Matt Dixon and Ted McKenna came out with the book, The Jolt Effect, this is the study that was based on 2.5 million calls. You know this already. And one of the things in there was advocacy. Customers want you to advocate a position. So James is saying, again, does it make sense to, which is fill in the blank. I like the more assertive, here's the next step, we should, do you agree? Your thoughts?
And I think the important part of all that is to get this practiced and and you mentioned it in the podcast that it's a little bit different than what you've been doing, right? Maybe, or maybe you're already doing something along those lines.
Right.
And you got to find your own spin. You got to find your own comfort level, right? So he says, you say the next step should be,
right?
And he says, what should we do, right?
Yeah.
I like how does it sound?
How does it sound?
How does
I like
it sound?
that too. I like that too.
And I think
instead of would you agree, is how does it sound?
Yeah.
How does that sound?
I think it's kind of a pin down, right? So you can kind of check the progress and make sure they're still with you. But I think it's vitally important to get it practiced.
Yeah. I want to be clear. We said the next step should be is not what I say.
Yeah.
The next step would be.
Yes.
And just that difference in words, should sounds more like a command.
Yeah.
So you say would be, would you agree? And you're saying, does that sound right? Yeah. And again, whatever.
How does that sound to you?
Yeah, how does that sound to you?
Whatever. That's just kind of my approach to it, right?
Everybody has their own. But when we talk about why 76% don't ask, one is what you said, it's fear. The second is not pre-planned. We should have something called premeditated closing. Damn it, that's a good phrase. Premeditated closing is I know what I'm going to say for the close, and that is, here's what I would recommend.
Yep.
This is what we should do next, or whatever it may be. Find your language, but have that prepared, and then you just come in and you land on that.
Yeah, and I think when you've got to I call it calendarizing your next step.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to come out of there.
phrase.
Any conversation you have, there's
Yeah.
got to be a firm date that you've agreed to that you're going to do the next step.
Calendarizing your next, that's an interesting
I mean,
phrase.
and you just as much as even just flipping out your phone. Okay, you've agreed. Okay, I'm going to do the inspection next Thursday. I'm going to put that on my calendar. Put that on yours, please. Just
calendarizing.
Just pinning that down so that there's no wiggle room, so you're not sitting there wondering.
Yeah, I love that. I love that because it's almost like Google it, right?
Yeah.
You make it a verb.
Absolutely.
Calendarizing is actually a great phrase. You should like trademark that thing.
Look, that's your job to trademark that. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. The other thing I think about the book, and certainly put some stuff in the chat if you've got different ways that you would spin that. The other thing about the book that was so intriguing, like I said, I read it when it first came out.
It's a good book.
2007, 2008, whatever. But I went back and I looked at it last night when I'm sitting in the hotel room. I'm looking at it last night trying to figure out, how good is this book, right? And you look at the Amazon reviews on it, right? You can buy it for like $10. I would highly recommend you doing the Audible route because he voices the book. Some guys
rare.
have these folks come in and read their book. He does it himself.
Yeah.
So I highly encourage you to get in there. The ratings are off the charts.
No, it's a great book.
Ratings are off the charts.
It's the Golden Shelf book. I think I told you what my Golden Shelf is.
Yeah.
I purge books every 6 months, and that one is consistently on the shelf. It goes. It's worth every time you invest in it, every minute.
I just think it will help us all kind of just.
Just if you have that close, Ed. Do you know what I mean? If you know where you're going to land, I know I'm being redundant here, but I think people don't understand that once you have the close down in your mind, what you're going to say, the next step would be fill in the blank. Yeah. Would you agree, or how does that sound? If I know that's my landing, it's like that pole vault or whatever. You stick the landing when you come off the beam, right? You stick the landing on that. If you know that's where I'm going to land, it like reduces this anxiety because you know where you're going to stick the landing.
Absolutely.
But if you don't have language or words and you can't verbalize it, you're going to feel clumsy as you get towards the end, and that's where I think you chicken out and don't ask.
Exactly. And the other piece I think that it does is it kind of, I don't know if it poo-poos, kind of all this ABC always be closed and stuff, all the alternate choice closes, all the assumptive closes. He talks about those, right? Where buyers and people's radar go off when you say, would you like me to come out Monday or Tuesday? And instead of
just ask for it. By the way, some good comments here. Audrey Miller recommends the book Go for No, an excellent recommendation, by the way. Wase Samadhi, if I got that right, let me know. Victor, really appreciate your in-depth tips. Appreciate that. Tips on the top 5 responses to overcome common objections. We should highlight here that within the Sales Velocity Academy, which you should all have access to, in there's a series called Client Says. And the Client Says series is where the client says this objection, and here's what you need to say. And so check out the Client Says series within the Sales Velocity Academy. And if you don't have access to the Sales Velocity Academy, get to your manager, give them your email, and they'll send it to Ed.
100%. I think we've cleaned all those up.
We got them all out?
Between Camille and the RSMs. Anything else that I'm just looking at my notes to make sure I don't miss anything.
I think we got everything. By the way, thank you, Dawn Marie, for recommending the book Response Block Selling, because instead of dealing with objections, towards the end, you can just block them during your presentation. That's the easiest way to reduce resistance.
100%. All right, let's do some housekeeping, then we'll get out of here, right? So I guess first up, I would want to share with you that on September 4th, Dawn's going to post some links in the chat here. On September 4th, the commercial division is put together again just another spectacular campaign program, right? So you're going to spend about half the time, about a half hour, 15 minutes, talking about new service offerings that we've got that are super exciting, and get some spin, hear from some folks that are selling a bunch of it, and really get some dynamic input from that. So that's kind of the service technical side offering piece that we've got built into that broadcast. And as always, they build a second piece in that's really diving into an opportunity we can go out and chase. And what we've done there, we have unpacked for you. Robert Reese and I were in the studio yesterday, and we recorded a segment on how to unpack the GPO, the healthcare GPO. Healthcare business commercially at Orkin is the biggest segment of commercial customers that we have. It approaches $50 million of our commercial portfolio, far and away leading what we have, and really one of the most profitable. It can be somewhat intimidating. So what we tried to do for both the folks that have been here for a year, for 3 months, 4 months, or even 35 years, like a guy like Chris Pierce, we unpacked all that in this broadcast that Rob gets in there, and he and I kick it around, kind of trying to it's not. Don't be intimidated by it. Make
Right.
sure you can just jump in there and get after it. So please check that out, because I think there's a wealth of knowledge. And as I look through these things, we talk about all these campaigns that these folks have done, and these toolkits that have been built to make that simple. I think, Stormy, if you can throw that slide up, I just want to touch on a couple. So we've got these toolkits that have been devised by marketing and our team there, and I think they're coming up. There we go. So there are 5 specific toolkits that have been built this year for our commercial sellers, and those are the technical ones on the other side: rodents, flies, mosquitoes, all the other things, and the scent services. But I want to focus this on the other side of that. They have built toolkits, Victor, the how-to from the beginning to end, how to prospect, what emails to send, how to talk to them. Here's the customer list, and those are right there. And obviously, we got the Club Procure, the Hilton Supply Management. Some of the folks on this call have hit home runs on that already. Big dollars there. We've had a great turnout for Sourcewell. We're starting to knock down a whole bunch of Sodexo stuff. We had a great broadcast with Dave Gore and Anthony Acosta on the Yum products. But the 2 that we're focusing here, again, the biggest segment that we have in Orkin Commercial is healthcare, and we are one of the 2 providers for the largest GPOs in the country, Premier and Vizient. That's what we're going to dive into. So it's so valuable. And again, you could be brand new here and you can figure that out. You can be here a veteran. It is something worth watching where we unpack it.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's super cool. And the tools that they built with marketing, it's just
no excuse to
just point and click. It takes some work. You got to do your homework. So if you have not yet spent any time in those toolkits, either the service summary toolkits or these GPO or these national account team sale opportunities, please get in there and just lose yourself in there for a while. Do the M&M thing. Lose yourself in there. Figure it all out, and just spend some time in there. It will pay dividends. When I look at the list, Victor, of the top 32 folks, I think it's pretty safe to assume that most all the folks on that list, probably 25 out of the 32, have a sizable national account team sale tag there. And I can start right at the top. Deborah's $500,000 is all team sale. All team sale. Jose De La Rosa, I don't know exactly what his was, but Jeremy Park sold a Sourcewell. He sold the Charlotte Airport through Sourcewell. And just going down the list, Chris Pierce, I know, landed a big healthcare group out there on the West Coast. Kyle Gorecki's knocking down big stuff all the time as well. On and on down the list. So if you want to hit this list, get into these national account team sales and start studying, working your tail off to figure it out.
Got some great comments here, by the way. Avery says, go chase the cheddar. I love that. Roy Gonzalez says, don't be fools, use the tools. That's quite cute. That's very clever. That's clever.
He's always very creative.
BB says the toolkits are put together so well, so that's a nice commentary. If you're not diving into prospecting team sales, you're missing out on sales, says DM rather. And,
we should just like let them just chat all the time instead of us talking.
Yeah, we should just we should just be quiet actually.
So again, just wrapping it up. Phenomenal start to August. You guys are doing great. We got a little bit of work to do as we kind of close the month out. We're gonna end at that double-digit increases. Got a little bit of work to do. The dog days of August are gone.
Gotcha.
Hydrate. Man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate what y'all are doing. We are absolutely flat killing it, and that train just keeps on rolling.
Crushing numbers,
Isn't it?
man. This is
Fun, man.
like I said, I see what other companies are doing, and you guys doing this in this economy.
Amen.
We need like a whistle, like a bell, ding, ding, or something.
How about, was that?
I didn't say choo-choo. I didn't just.
All right,
that's like too far.
Let's let them go get back to work.
All right.
Let's get out of here. Thank y'all.
Take care, guys.